All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Mythras Rules series. Oh gosh. Bubby, you could be the 69th subscriber. Why would you deny us such a what's the word? Magnanimous decision? You should do it. Anyway, sorry. Welcome to the Mythras Rules series, where we're going to go over why the Mythras rules matter and why we choose Mythras. What was the point? And I'm just going to actually put this up there right now. The Mythras rules slide and why they... Oh, I can't do it. You're going to have to do it, Elf Hunter.
There you go.
There you go. Why they strengthen roleplay. Today we're going to be talking about... I'll let Elf Hunter get into what we're going to be talking about. But last time we talked about characters, very focused on the self. Today we're going to be focused on the broader picture and how that helps you role play better. I will say this chapter and then the next chapter, kind of, you can throw them out the window. You can do that by using the skill pyramid if you just want to get up and go. A lot of people, when they're new to the system, they like just to do that because they get stuck in this very detailed character creation. But I think it's very warranted to take your time and everyone together at the session 0 go through this and find out how are we going to play this game. It really makes the world come to life.
Now, if you have gone through the chapters already, you've done this a million times, and maybe it's a one-shot or something and you want to save time, in that case, I like the skill pyramid to get my character created quickly. But like Adept said, it's definitely worth it to go through these chapters to think about who your character is before you start playing. So culture and community is the name of this chapter. Essentially, how did your character grow up? We're going to be getting into the culture, background events, not a background story, but a single event. Community, family, that's a huge one. Allies, contacts, rivals, enemies. And then passions gets you thinking about core beliefs of your character and things of that sort.
Exactly. So, first off is the culture. On the side here, I have the 4 cultures in the core game: barbarian, civilized, nomadic, and primitive. You should definitely read over them. You should know them because a lot of times if you're just jumping into a game with strangers, that's the cultures that are going to be used. But Mythras implores you in its setting design. You can see there's always custom cultures. That's what brings the world to life. So I don't want to focus on these specific cultures, but how they work. Each culture has 7 different standard skills. If you remember last time, standard skills are things every character has. Anyone can do it. But the culture has somehow, some way focused on 7 of them. All right? After that, there's a list of professional skills. Remember, professional skills, unlike other BRP games like Call of Cthulhu, where you have all the skills and you can use them all even if you only have 1% chance. In Mythras, you have professional skills where if you don't have that skill, you can't try it. If you don't have the skill to lockpick, you can jimmy at that lock all you want. It's never going to happen. But you'll have a list of professional skills for each culture, and you as your character will select from 3 of them. So this is how you get 2 characters from the same culture that can be differentiated. Although it would be very interesting as well to have 2 cultures with the same professional skills. I could see them being either best friends or bitter rivals, but somehow still in the same group. And then each culture has a combat style, but you'll notice I have that if desired. You don't have to include a combat style, but I definitely would recommend it. The characters don't have to choose to take that combat style. They can decide if they want to. So each culture also has their own customs and their own native tongue. They could be the same between like a barbarian and civilized. They could have the same language, right? But even if they have the same language, they would have very different customs. Those get a massive bump during the character creation. A plus 40% is standard, which is, that's essentially 2 whole difficulty modifiers.
Right.
And at the end of all this, you figure out, okay, what are my 7 standard skills? What are my professional skills? Do I want this combat style? And then you distribute all your points. Usually it's 100, but you have to have a minimum. that shows that even if you have not focused on these standard skills, the culture has shaped you. So the minimum traditionally is 5%. Even if you didn't focus on, I don't know, athletics, you grew up in an athletic culture, so you have a plus 5%. That takes out of that total points that you have to distribute. Now, of course, I said you had 100 points generally. You can't put all of those into your combat style. Traditionally, there's a maximum, usually 15%, and that's unless you're older, you may get more. But like I said, you should be doing all this in a session 0 as a whole table, figuring out how are these cultures working. Maybe the game master has brought some to show off, to give people ideas, but it's really a table culture, pardon the pun. You want to work together, especially if you're going to be doing a long campaign.
Quick note on combat style: if you don't choose it during the culture section, when you get to the career section, there's another option to choose a professional combat style.
Yes.
And we'll get to that, but you could have one or the other, or both, or neither.
Exactly. Oh, and I forgot to say, I meant to say it at the beginning. Anyone in chat that's sending a message, we'll get to the chat at the very end. We want to try and get through this slideshow explaining everything. That way it's easier for people to share and get through without seeing all the nonsense. I love nonsense in the chat.
Background events. So, like I said in the intro, it's not a backstory necessarily, but a single event. What is it? A notable thing that happened in your character's life before beginning their career as an adventurer, or whatever an adventurer would mean in your setting, you know. And in the book, it's got this huge table for you to roll on. You can roll on it. That's fun. I enjoy that. You just pick one or make your own. But I find during rolling, it brings ideas to my character that I would have never thought of on my own. So that I find that really enjoyable. Here's a few examples on the side. As a child, you witness a ritual or ceremony that affected your psyche. A fortune teller said you would encounter a great sorrow, a great victory, and a great reversal. Your family follows a religion unaccepted by the rest of the community. And these are shortened versions of the examples in the book. But they are very good background events.
Exactly.
They get you thinking about what happened before you got here, before the game started, without taking up, this is the novel of my character.
Please, no novels. I would say that rolling on the table is definitely the best way to do it. The book says you can pick if you want. Don't be lame. The randomness adds to it. Of course, if you roll something and it doesn't make any sense in the setting, of course, just throw that out. But you should be flexible. You never know. Something that seems like it doesn't fit at first, if you just massage it a little bit, give it some room to breathe, it can really fit. For example, if you have something that it seems like it's magical, but you're in a low or no magic setting, that in itself is like, okay, this seemed like it was a magical thing, but it can't be magical. How did it happen? Right? So I think that's excellent for role play. If you're in your session 0, don't figure out what happened in the session 0. Don't brainstorm what happened. Just let the campaign go. You'll figure it out as you play.
That sounds so fun.
All right, community. Here we have the social classes, and right now you can see 6 of them. But when you're making your custom cultures, you don't actually have to use all of these. In fact, in the book, only the civilized culture has all 6 of these social classes. So that's one more thing that the game master or the players at the table can use to shape what kind of culture they want. Anyways, the community does set you up with certain things. First off is the starting money. In general, a civilized culture is going to have more money than a primitive culture, right? But depending on where you are in this community, you might have less. For example, if you're a slave, you're going to have a lot less money than if you're part of the aristocracy, right? But this also sets you up with your background resources, sort of the not the money you have, but the things that, okay, you go home, what do you have at your disposal? And then also, if you choose to use it, that income between adventures, right? Although I will say the money and everything here, it tells you what to do with it, but the tables for it are on like they're like 3 or 4 pages away, so it can get kind of confusing. um, Elf Hunter let me know it shows your starting money as like you roll a couple dice and there's a multiplier there. There's actually another multiplier at the on the table for your social class. That's like your money modifier. So don't get confused by that. If you just read the book, it'll make sense. Take your time. But this part of the cultures can differentiate once again two people from the same culture, but one person's a slave or even an outcast, while one person's from the ruling class. It can be very exciting for the story to see what happens. Sorry, excuse me. Did you have anything you wanted to add there, Elf Hunter?
Um, Not too bad. Just think the book gives some examples of what background resources could be: animals, tools, clothing, methods of travel. It's all in there.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Family. Family is huge. For me especially, I think for anyone, but I've played characters that because he had a family, it changed everything about his outlook on the world. On like every choice he made was different because he was thinking about how to protect his family. And then when he lost his family, that changed everything as well. But it gives you some things in the book to roll on for parents, siblings, extended family. You can roll for all of those. Family reputation is a big one. Uh, Maybe if you're there, something happened that brought shame to your family name, that's going to be a big deal to you. You're either going to be hiding away or trying to bring glory back to that family name.
Or even distancing
Marriage,
yourself from
children.
them.
Yeah, marriage, children. Um, do you have something you want to say about the details?
Yes. So once again, like we were talking about with the background events, with the families, don't it does no good for you to stop and say, okay, well, I rolled for 6 siblings and 13 cousins, and both my grandparents are alive on my mom's side, and write out all the details for all those relationships. It doesn't make sense to do that because even if you write it down, you're not going to remember all of it, and you're going to find, oh, well, this actually doesn't make sense because these things clash. They can't both be true. And it takes a lot away from the game. All these things could be happening during the game. The book itself tells you, if you have a big family, don't put in all the details. All right, if you have one brother and that's all you have, maybe, okay, you can decide at the beginning of the game, oh, I love my brother or I hate my brother, like, oh, my brother is my ultimate rival, right? But if you have a large family, don't fill in those details. Let the game master decide, maybe, oh, let me bring this character's family in here because we know their family is there, but the details haven't been filled in. Or even you as a player, feel free to call upon your family as sort of a point of contact. For example, let's say you're trying to breach a castle. Say, well, my cousin is a stonemason. He might be able to help us learn how to break through this wall, or even maybe he worked on that wall. Maybe he is privy to some unknown details, right? And that's a way that the player can push the campaign forward and enrich the campaign setting, all because of how you generated your character and you left the space for that to happen during the game, and you didn't just set all the things, all the dominoes up at the beginning, right? You don't want to take the mystery out of it.
Yeah.
Anyways, Along with your family, they can generate this. Your character can also generate these as well. But the allies, the contacts, the rivals, the enemies, this is like a soap opera.
Hmm.
Perfect in a good way, right?
Yeah.
You have these allies. These are more written out, but not all the way, right? You know that an ally is good for you, right? You know a contact is generally going to have some sort of position, some sort of status. You know a rival is going to be someone who's trying to compete with you. You know an enemy is against you, but you don't know everything about them. These are personal things that through the gameplay you can figure out more about them, and they can change, right? If you have an ally that you're working with, but for whatever reason, maybe, and we'll get to the passions later, but because of one of your passions you have to betray them, or even they betray you, that's great for the game, great for the role play, and it's supported at character creation through the rules. You're
Hmm.
not having to and you totally could do this in another system. You can make all these things up, right? But this gives you a structure to really figure out, hey, I'm going to set this up at the beginning. The rules help me do that. Everyone's organized. And what could be really interesting is, say, one character's family is allies with this person, but this other character's family, that's their greatest enemy, right?
Hmm.
Very, very interesting things that can happen there with the allies, the contacts, rivals, and enemies.
I love what you said about you can do this in any game, any system. It's true, but it is nice that it's structured for you in the book. You can go through this every time you create a character. It also mentions personal connections between the player characters, and it recommends that you talk to at least one other player, and so you can talk about how do we know each other? What's the relationship there? We would take that even further. Say during session 0, all of you are talking about how your characters know each other, um, and exploring the relationships between characters.
Exactly.
Passions. So passions are measured like a skill, 0 to 100. They represent loyalties, allegiances, strongly held beliefs or ideals, or emotions felt towards someone or something. And we'll get into the mechanics of how exactly they work later, but essentially it helps your role play in that it forms your, like I said, beliefs and ideals. And if your character tries to do something that's against one of their core beliefs, it's going to be harder for them to actually do that because they'll have to roll against their passion. And that passion another use for passions is to augment skills. Um, if
Yeah,
a
and we'll get
passion,
into all this.
yeah, it
One
could
thing,
increase your skill essentially.
right. And one thing as well is these is once again something that the game master and the table can use when they're creating the cultures. These passions, each culture has some suggested passions, like, loyalty to the king, right? That's one that's suggested. You can set these up as the cultures, like, hey, these are generally the passions that people in this culture have. For example, if you're making, uh, you know, a culture for the USA, value freedom is definitely going to be a cultural passion, right? Whereas maybe a different, or maybe even more specific, value individual freedom. Whereas a different culture somewhere else would maybe have value the community, right? So that's one other like little knob that you can use the mechanics to create how. Sorry, I just saw Conway's comment. One other thing you can use when you're creating these cultures. Over here, we have these person, organization, race, species, place, object, substance, concept, or ideal. All of these things, guys, you can have these passions. The passion is very flexible. You can even use it. We were talking about marriage and kids earlier with the families. You can have your marriage passion. Maybe your passion is very high for your marriage, and you have a very strong marriage, or even you want to have the strong marriage, but your spouse has a very low marriage passion, right? That could be some conflict there, right? And passions can be positive or negative. So we were talking about positive earlier, talking about value individual freedom, but it could be something else like hate. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm just gonna say something silly. I don't want anyone to think I hate this thing. Hate peanut butter. Maybe you're playing a silly game where that's your passion. I don't know, but the basic premise is just you have a verb and then you have the object of the passion, like it says right there. Verb: hate, love, espouse, believe, right? And then infinite objects, right? Even other characters in the game.
It's usually a verb, but it can also be loyal to something.
Is that not a verb? Be loyal to, I guess.
Be loyal to. There you go. There you go.
Yeah. And I guess to kind of sum it up, I'm going to go back to this over here. Here we are. All these things you can actually use as a game master, as a player at the table before the game even starts to really set the tone of not only your character, but the community they are in, that they grew up in, that you may be playing in.
Mm-hmm.
And you can mess with all these mechanically to really set that tone, to really let people know, hey, this is how things are going to work. The cultures, I mean, you can use the 4 basic cultures, but I highly recommend if you're setting up to play a longer campaign, or even something that you want to be a longer campaign, you're not quite so sure, to set up these custom cultures, to set up their communities, to set up the passions those cultures have, right? And then even setting up how many social classes does this culture have. Maybe you only have one. Maybe this is a utopian culture that everyone is completely equal, but maybe some are more equal than others. Mm-hmm. Anyways, so that's why I love these rules. They enhance the role play before the game even starts. They give you so many, I guess other people might describe it as adventure hooks.
So much to chew on in session 0. There's no way you can read through these character creation chapters and just not have ideas in session 0 for you guys to talk about together. So yeah.
All right.
I think that about covers it.
I agree. Well, if you're here at the VOD, bye.